Welcome into the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That is Wade Neely, and we are with you here on this fine Friday afternoon here for the next couple of hours discussing local, regional, and national sports topics. Excited to do so. Wade, can you hear us?
Oh, we can hear you, and we are pumped to be with you guys on a Friday because it's not just any Friday. It's the two more sleeps before Super Bowl kind of Friday, which has got everybody amped, everybody ready to rock and roll. Looking forward to a huge show today.
You got your snacks all, if not ready, at least planned for Super Bowl Sunday, Wade?
Yeah, we don't deviate too much. You know, pigs in a blanket is kind of my staple. That's really all a lot of people trust me with. I have been known to get some wings going as well, but I don't deviate from that too much. So I stick to my guns and stick to what we know. But yeah, it'll be a massive feast on Sunday, and hopefully the game is good too.
Yeah, well, the food will be
The game's
good.
kind of
The game
secondary,
is
really.
not.
Yeah. The game is secondary, really, for me and the crew on Super Bowl Sunday. We're there to eat and have a good time.
Yeah, well, I had to make the pilgrimage over to Murfreesboro yesterday to a certain eater to pick up some smoked wings, and as the hashtag goes, IYKYK. If you know, you know. So, got some wings. Caught the Lady Raiders, big win last night, and it's a good night. But yeah, we are getting the grub ready for Sunday. Should be a lot of fun. This show should be a lot of fun as well. In the next hour, speaking of Super Bowl 59, we will be speaking with Jim DERRY, who hosts the DATTITUDE podcast for the New Orleans Times-Picayune. Talking to him about a little Super Bowl activity and probably catch up on some Saints activity as well. So looking forward to speaking with him in the second hour. In the next segment, we'll be joined by TSSAA Executive Director Mark REEVES. Nothing going on in Hermitage. Nothing at all.
No.
Tongue firmly in cheek there. Yeah.
Yeah. In addition to all that, they got middle school state tournament going on. The postseason for high school is about to get cranked up. I'm surprised he has time to visit with us, but I am certainly gracious that he will join us here in a little bit.
Absolutely excited that he's going to carve out a little time for us to talk a little rules changes that are anticipated one way or another. So looking forward to checking in with him on that. We'll be talking a little women's basketball action later in the show, game in particular. Some professional women's basketball player movement, some men's basketball as well. Also, NBA awards were presented last night, and
NFL awards.
I said NBA, didn't I? I'm sorry.
We know awards. Some of the NBA awards. We can pretty much hand them out, but yeah, the NFL.
NFL awards were presented last night at their honors banquet, and there was it wasn't without its controversy, I guess. We'll talk a little bit about that. 2025 Hall of Fame inductees were announced as well, and we will look at some other stuff going on over this weekend in addition to the big football game. So a lot to discuss, and I believe we are about ready to do it. Wade, what do you think? Shall we?
Yeah, let's do it, partner.
Let's do it. Let's start it with yesterday's results and this weekend schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
Lock and load, boys and girls. The Friday rundown is moments away, but before we begin, I want to remind you that each and every single Friday, our rundown is brought to you by Chip Walters of Exit Realty, Bob Lamb and Associates. The Blue Raider Voice also wants to be your trusted advisor in real estate, so contact Chip at 615-542-1915 or visit his website at choosechip.net. That's Chip Walters, proud to support youth sports across Middle Tennessee.
That's TSSAA Hall of Famer Chip Walters, by the way. So yeah. Girls basketball action from last night. Nashville Christian with a 66-35 win over Clarksville Academy. Creekwood defeated Sycamore 57-46. It was Frank Hughes with a 41-26 win over visiting Santa Fe. East Robertson defeated Greenbrier 61-53. Harpeth Hall defeated Brentwood Academy 44-39, and Smyrna with a 51-18 win over Knowledge Academies. On the boys' side, Creekwood 70, Sycamore 65. Santa Fe edging Frank Hughes 43-42 in a matchup of 2024 state tournament teams. Alden Slaughter with 27 in that one, by the way. Greenbrier 49, East Robertson 41. Montgomery Bell Academy with a 57-49 win over Brentwood Academy. Merrill Hyde defeated Red Boiling Springs 74-27. Smyrna 86, Knowledge Academies 53, and Franklin Road Academy defeats Franklin Road Christian defeats Zion Christian 95-76.
Scores from last night in women's college basketball. It was TSU picking up a 70-66 win versus Western Illinois. UT Vols, the Lady Vols, sneaked by UConn last night. Good win for the Vols, and more on that later in this show. But it was 80-76 on the hardwood up in Knoxville. Queens defeats Austin Peay 52-43. MTSU takes care of Jack State 63-46. Texas all over Vanderbilt 87-66. University of Mobile squeaking by UT Southern down in Southern Alabama there. It was 82-76. Mid-South Conference action between Bethel and Cumberland. Head coach Chris Nelson and the Bethel Lady Wildcats defeat Cumberland 65-53. Wilberforce, Ohio takes care of Fisk 71-62. Trevecca on top of West Florida 54-47. Men's scores from last night. Jack State takes care of MTSU 77-63. It was 87-69. TSU topping Western Illinois. Mobile defeats UT Southern 70-65. Bethel on a high scoring night defeats Cumberland 91-82. Good win for Coach Britt over there. 79-71 for Wilberforce, Ohio over Fisk. And Trevecca, man, a lot of close games, including Trevecca 74, West Florida 72.
High school basketball action this evening. These are 6 o'clock doubleheaders, starting with the girls. Hunters Lane travels to Antioch. Columbia Academy comes up I-60 to Battleground Academy. Beach is hosting Green Hill. Oakland goes to Blackman. It's the Battle of the Woods, Raven at Brent. West Creek goes to Clarksville Northwest. Culleoka is at Cornersville. Creekwood hosting Fairview. Henry County is at Dixon County. Huntland travels to Eagleville. East Robertson hosting Merrill Hyde. Centennial is at Franklin. This is their big game where they pay tribute to the pre-integration all-black high school in Franklin, Natchez High School. They'll be wearing their throwback uniforms in that one. Giles County is at Franklin County, and that one you can hear on Pulaski Citizen Live, the golden tones of Wayne Neely. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Locked and loaded. We're already here, baby, ready to rock.
Oh, okay. All right. I was a little worried about you there. Okay. University School of Nashville is at Franklin Road Academy. Davidson Academy goes to Friendship Christian. Glencliff hosts Lawson. Ezel Harding goes to Good Pasture. Middle Tennessee Christian travels to Grace Christian of Franklin. Hampshire hosting Richland. Cheatham County goes to Harpeth. Mount Juliet is at Hendersonville. Cane Ridge travels to Hillsboro. Overton hosting McGavock. Clarksville Northeast is at Kenwood. Springfield goes to Kirkwood. Joe Burns is at Knowledge Academies. And Tullahoma is at Lawrence County.
Other games on the docket tonight. Cookeville will be at Lebanon this evening. Battle Creek traveling to Lewis County. Westmoreland will be at Liberty Creek. Father Ryan making a short trip up to Lipscomb Academy. Summertown is making a short trip as well, but they'll be at Loretto. Good luck to all of those squads. Wear your boxing gloves down there. Martin Luther King will be at Maplewood this evening. Houston County traveling to McKenzie. It'll be Watertown at Monterey this evening. Sycamore is on the road at Montgomery Central. Marshall County heads to Murfreesboro for a showdown with Central Magnet. DCA will be at Nashville Christian. Nolansville traveling to Page. STEM Academy at Pearl Cone. CPA at Pope John Paul II. Macon County will be on the road tonight at Portland. Webb School visiting Providence Christian this evening. KIPP Nashville traveling to Republic. Riverdale will play host to Gallatin tonight. Rockvale will do the same, welcoming Siegel into town. It will be Clarksville at Rossview tonight. Wilson Central traveling to Smyrna. Columbia will visit Spring Hill. Other games on the docket, as I just lost everything there.
Hold up. Hang on a second. Come on.
I got us back now. Oh, now
okay,
as soon as I got to it, I lost it again. Beautiful radio here, but bear with us, folks, because I got some more games here, including Laverne at Stewart's Creek, East Nashville on the road tonight at Stratford. Independence is traveling to Summit. Hume Fogg will be at Valor Collegiate. Station Camp at White House, and Trousdale County will be at White House Heritage.
Did you get Columbia Central and Spring Hill?
We did, yeah. Rivalry showdown tonight.
Cool. All right. Just making sure. I screwed up the document there. My apologies. College basketball tonight. Well, this was a 12 o'clock tip. Apparently, UT Southern was at William Carey of Mississippi. Wade, got any intel on that?
I don't, and I actually would assume that's going to be tomorrow, but we'll see if we can circle back with you guys on that.
Yeah, that might be tomorrow. Yeah, okay. These are probably Saturday games.
That is confirmed for Saturday tomorrow.
Okay, that is a 12 noon start tomorrow. UT Southern at William Carey. Also at 1 o'clock tomorrow, Fisk is at Russ. Campbellsville, Kentucky is at Cumberland at 1. Valdosta travels to Trevecca at 2, and also at 3, it's Lindenwood at Tennessee State. Again, those are all double headers. Women's basketball tomorrow, Lipscomb is at Austin P. That's a 2 o'clock tip. You can see it on ESPN Plus. At 5 o'clock, Kennesaw State at MTSU. That's on ESPN Plus. Men's basketball tomorrow, 11 o'clock tip. Tennessee is at Oklahoma. It's shown on ESPN. 12 noon, Texas comes to Memorial Gym taking on the Commodores. That one's on the SEC network. Also at 12 on ESPN Plus, it's Lipscomb at Queens. MTSU is at Kennesaw State at 4 on ESPN Plus. Central Arkansas is at Austin P at 4 on ESPN Plus. And Missouri State comes to Belmont. That is also a 4 o'clock tip, also on ESPN Plus. On the ice, 7 o'clock, the Buffalo Sabres come to town taking on the Predators. You can see it on FanDuel Sports. And at 7 o'clock tomorrow night, it's the Oklahoma City Thunder at FedEx Arena against the Grizzlies, also on FanDuel.
Other games rolling into the weekend. Women's college basketball set for Sunday, 1 p.m. It'll be shown on ESPN Plus, but it'll be Belmont at UIC. That's Illinois, Chicago. Tennessee will be at LSU at 3 o'clock on ESPN. And if you're interested in Super Bowl 59, Sunday's your day. It'll kick off at 5:30. It'll be shown on Fox, and there will be coverage upon coverage. You could probably flip on any channel early Sunday and get your fill. But Super Bowl is officially set for 5:30 Sunday on Fox. That brings us to the end of the weekend schedule. And ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the Friday Rundown.
Your top story brought to you as always by the fine folks over at Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill in Columbia. And little tragic news out of New Orleans in relation to the upcoming Super Bowl. A Kansas City sports anchor and reporter was found dead in his room Wednesday. Was down there working with KGKC Telemundo, Kansas City. Aiden Manzano was found dead. Again, the station did not list a cause of death, said it is cooperating with law enforcement. An arrest has been made relating to this. A Louisiana woman since been arrested in connection with his death after surveillance video showed her leaving his hotel room. So foul play apparently is suspected in this. The woman, Danette Colbert, was found to be in possession of Manzano's credit card and cell phone at her residence in nearby Slidell. So, yeah, I just can't imagine. I mean, you've been on major assignments as part of a team of journalists and that kind of thing, and one of your coworkers winds up dead. I mean, that's just, regardless of how it comes about, that's a shock to the system for sure. Just can't imagine.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt that would be a wild and crazy situation anyway. But factor in you're in a major city in New Orleans, and factor in that it's the week before the biggest sporting assignment on the calendar in the world, practically. That is a wild story. Obviously sad, obviously tragic. But man, there's a lot of moving parts to kind of go into all this right on the eve of Super Bowl 59.
Yeah, and making it even more sad and even more tragic, Manzano's wife was killed in a car crash about 10 months ago. They leave a 2-year-old daughter, so it just gets worse and worse, basically. And you just hear that kind of thing, but it's, again, so many folks involved and touched by this, and thoughts are with co-workers, family, that kind of thing. But Aiden Manzano, Kansas City sports reporter, and Hank found dead in his room in New Orleans, was down there for the Super Bowl. And again, just tragic news. You hate to hear it. As KGKC sports and reporter, Aiden was a true professional and a rising star who exemplified excellence in his work, according to a release from the station. We will deeply miss Aiden and his passion for sports and the contributions he made to the local community. Aiden Manzano was 27 years old. Again, thoughts with the folks that knew him and the Kansas City community on this. That's a tough one. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, we'll be joined by TSSAA Executive Director Mark Reeves. Stick around. Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Step into the Lionel retail store at Opry Mills, Nashville, and you'll be captivated by all the magic of the 123-year history of Lionel trains. Whether you're already a train enthusiast or just getting started, Lionel will energize your love for trains. NASCAR fan? Come check out your local Lionel station to learn all there is to know about model trains and die-cast NASCAR collectibles. Visit nashville.lionel.com or call 615-455-9399.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
You're seeing the signs too, right?
What signs?
This holiday season, the largest lantern festival in the country returns to Nashville Zoo. Experience more than 1,000 all-new, handcrafted lanterns, towering creatures, magical worlds, and a North Pole village. At the center of it all, the Smashville Ice Rink. Welcome back to Zoolumination at Nashville Zoo. Bigger, brighter, and better than ever.
The weekend warm-up continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton, and we are pleased to have with us the Executive Director of the Tennessee Secondary School Athletic Association, Mark Reeves. Coach Reeves, good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon. How are you guys doing?
We're doing
Good,
well, man. Yep. It's good. It's Friday. The weekend is coming now. We're both going to be working, so it doesn't change a whole lot, but at least it's the weekend. So,
Right.
been a busy week for you. Have you recovered?
No, I'm actually in my bonus room at my house right now because I hadn't been at my house during working hours for our landfill, and my trash is piling up. So, you know how that goes. You know, you can't get home when things are open. So it's been some long hours, and of course I'm the dad of a wrestler, so you don't have any Saturdays available. So yeah, it's been quite the show.
Region tournament this weekend, huh?
Yeah, I got a region tournament to go to. Excited about that. They're looking forward to it.
Okay, well, good luck to Connor. You guys had had a special called legislative council meeting on Tuesday.
That's correct.
Did you all accomplish what you expected to accomplish during that meeting?
I thought we had some great outcomes. To be quite honest with you, the reason why we had a special called meeting is we wanted to be able to move forward on proposals that were on the books as opposed to waiting until April, because 3 of those proposals dealt with the potential for changing transfer rules, and the council did not adopt any one of those 3. They rejected those as written, but what came out of that meeting is what we were really hoping to come out of the meeting was very good discussion and dialogue on where we can expand our transfer rules for situations that fit within the mission and fundamental principles that the organization is really founded on. And that's what we were charged to do. We talked a lot about reasons or ways in which kids should be made eligible that are in alignment with the Educational Freedom Act, so that we're not standing in the way of a student that wishes to take advantage of scholarship that they may now have access to. What does that look like? But then also, having some guardrails so that, if something crazy were to happen and a kid is at a public school, gets in trouble and gets sent to alternative school, but is able to transfer or take advantage of a voucher and go to an independent school, that kid would still be ineligible. And so putting some guardrails on some things like that is what we were really charged to do. Let's take care of legitimate academic reasons, legitimate social, emotional, mental health, all the things that make an awful lot of sense in this day and age, where we're all working in the best interest of students. So we got to work immediately on that, and we will be working on some language to bring back to that group. They asked that we have another special call meeting, if we could, prior to that April meeting, to go ahead and get that, try to get that done. So we thought it was a great meeting.
Is this particularly pressing, Mark, from the standpoint that, you mentioned vouchers. Vouchers are obviously coming. Is it particularly pressing to get the transfer rule amended ahead of any other action that might take place outside of the TSSAA in that regard?
Well, you've got, I think everybody knows that there's a bill that's been introduced in the House, that would, if passed, would allow for a one-time transfer. And I really do believe that bill was introduced for a lot of the same reasons why we had our discussion the other day. Let's find pathways for kids to make choices that are in their best interest. But there is somewhat of a sense of urgency, because we would love to be able to accomplish that without having a state law that's enacted, because it does get really tricky in terms of other things that could make a student ineligible that we feel like should still exist. For example, if a student is ineligible for because they were illegally recruited by another school, or they're under disciplinary action, like the example I just gave you, or
Mm-hmm.
they don't meet the academic rule. There are literally there's a lot of language about things that could still make kids ineligible that I think most, if not all, would, well, not all, but most would agree are fundamental and certainly in alignment with what our three overarching principles are, and that's keep athletics in a proper perspective, making sure that academic mission of schools is is at the forefront, and maintaining a competitive balance or level playing field. There's got to be guardrails if you're going to accomplish those three things.
Mark, as we kind of talk about this issue, and then the topic of NIL kind of slowly infiltrates into the high school ranks, and I guess I'm just curious, and maybe there is no easy answer for you guys, but as a whole, would you kind of describe the methodology you guys approach? Are y'all trying to be super proactive, or is it kind of more a, hey, let's deal with things kind of case by case and just evaluate in regards to kind of issuing new legislature for you guys as a body?
Well, we want to be proactive, and if you're talking, if we talk specifically about NIL, I think we were one of the states. We weren't certainly one of the first or second, but we're early adopters of changes to our amateur rule to make sure that students could benefit on their name, image, and likeness. But more importantly, we wanted to get those boundaries set so that it was very clear that they could not benefit as a result of their affiliation with the school. So our member schools don't want any part of that. We said this in the meeting the other day. I think we occupy a very sacred space, and it's getting squeezed. That sacred space is education-based athletics, and on the other side, you've got collegiate sports and professional sports where the money's real big, and NIL doesn't mean the same thing in the same at the college space of what we're talking about. And then on the other side, you've got youth and club sports, AAU world, and I'm not throwing darts at those organizations, but their missions are very different than what ours are. And so, like specifically when you talk about NIL, Wade, I made this point at the legislative council meeting as well. NIL in the collegiate space, that means I get this much money to play for this school. And yes, they might get other things in return, or they may be expected to show up in a commercial or sell a jersey, but they're getting paid to play, and that's what NIL is. When you talk about NIL that's approved in the high school space, that's not the case. There's nothing in our rules that say a kid can get paid or compensated to come to a school because of a transfer situation. Another reason why we would hope that we would be able to expand our transfer rules while retaining those guardrails.
I'm just always fascinated, and I think you guys do a great job of kind of navigating, whether it's NIL, whether it's vouchers, et cetera, kind of navigating a lot of murky waters with some legal challenges while still trying to be kind of proactive. And so that was kind of the basis of my question is I feel like you guys do about as well of a job as you can, it seems like.
Well, it's certainly more challenging probably now than it ever has been. And, it's not just in Tennessee, that's all over the country. This is the topic of national discussion. You have a lot of similar discussions that are going on around us. I just got a text from a cousin of my wife who's a superintendent in Kentucky, and the same bill was introduced in Kentucky yesterday or the day before for one-time transfer. So there's a lot of these same stories that are being told in different places, and every state's a little bit different, but we are really all kind of looking at the same issues and approaching them somewhat in a similar way, but there are differences as well.
Mark Reeves, Executive Director of the Tennessee Secondary School Athletic Association, joining us here on Main Street Sports today. Mark, is part of the dynamic the fact that that there is a faction out there, I guess, that want high school athletics to look like collegiate athletics, and as you mentioned a second ago, that's not the case. I mean, the missions are different, but it feels like there are a number of people from the outside looking in at high school athletics and want it to look like college athletics in terms of NIL, in terms of transfers and that kind of thing. Are you kind of fighting against that to some degree?
Oh yeah, 100%. And I wouldn't necessarily call it a fight because it's not, it's not confrontational, but
Right.
there are different philosophies that are out there, and you can certainly understand if I'm a casual college football fan, or I'm following what I see, and some people love the excitement that's produced to see where's this kid going to go and how much money is he going to get offered, and there's that's the entertainment value with that. So, and then the other side of that is that same person might look at us and see us as a very similar type of regulatory agency and come to the conclusion, well, why not? How could they restrict? How could they? But again, they're not necessarily familiar with what the mission is. Our organization is a organization of schools. It's not an organization of the general public. It's an organization of schools who came together nearly 100 years ago, be 100 years ago this April, to agree upon a common set of rules. And those rules aren't 100 years old. They have evolved dramatically over the course of 100 years as education has changed and as the world has changed. And we're evolving, and I think the Legislative Council meeting was a great example of that. There's evolution that's happening with our transfer rules and with our schools based on the nature and the climate of what we see in education today. And we just hope that we'll be able to be able to control that moving forward. And we may not, the legislature, that the law may pass. And if it does, then, we'll obviously abide by it, and we'll figure out the best way to support our schools, with that new reality.
It feels like it would be more advantageous for the TSSAA as an organization. Wade spoke to being proactive, and I'm not preaching to the choir, preaching to you all, I don't think, but it feels like it would be easier if you all are out front of the state legislature. And I don't mean to make it sound confrontational. It just feels like if you all have a little bit better knowledge of the nuances that you're dealing with and that kind of thing than a lot of folks there, and you can kind of craft this thing rather than trying to work within whatever confines or whatever parameters come out of whatever it is that they do.
Yeah, and that's the advantage. Whatever role that you're in, if it's what you do every day, then you're able to maybe see around more corners than others. And one of the things with the one-time transfer, if that's where it stopped, then hey, maybe that's not maybe that's not a bad thing. But the model of what we've seen is it doesn't stop there. If there's a one-time transfer for any reason, it becomes very difficult to defend your rationale for not allowing a second, third, or fourth. And that's what we've seen, in other entities. You saw that at the NCAA level, the state of Florida. There are no transfer rules in the state of Florida, and it all started with opening that door, where now, if you're in the state of Florida, I love my friends in Florida. I've got 3 or 4 dear friends in that office that I've grown to know. But we just kind of chuckle if you're eligible in Florida, and let's just say you're in football playoffs and you get beat in the quarterfinals in Florida, you're eligible wherever you show up the next day. But you got to wait 6 days. So you get beat in the quarterfinals, then no problem. I'll transfer over here and I can play for somebody else in the semis. That's literally the rule. So that's what, because we deal with it every day. We talk with folks in that space every day. We know what's the more likely outcome if you open that door. And I understand that other people can't see that perspective. But that's what we want to I don't think anybody wants that.
Right.
There are a lot of folks that are in favor. We have 40% of our members who are in favor of a one-time transfer. So we have a significant number of our membership school people that would like to see that. But very few of those, I would say, are in favor of that Wild Wild West that I just described.
Yeah.
Our fear is if you open that door to the one time, that's inevitable. That's where you're going to end up. So we just love to stay, current, but also keep the guardrails on.
Yeah, I mean, you would like for that one-time transfer to take place between school years, I would think. I mean, would that be part of the guardrails as opposed to a mid-year transfer, maybe? Or
yeah, absolutely. And our conversations with the legislature have been great, and I think they would certainly be open to that too. If it does drop, if that were to happen, I think those guardrails are. I think that's what they're looking at as a potential, amendment. But that's the version that's in there now. I mean, who knows what could happen? That could be amended. There could be others who are not necessarily, authoring the one that's out there right now that says, what, we shouldn't restrict anybody anytime. But no, I think those who are pushing that in the legislature don't want the Wild West. I know they don't. They don't want the Wild West either. Our fear is, though, what we've seen, maybe they haven't seen, and that is the inevitable outcome.
yeah, I think anybody that I was getting ready to ask you about Florida, actually, and
Always
think anybody
Florida.
I think anybody that's seen that, I think that is the ultimate. No, we don't want to get there. I don't think. I don't know how they got there, and I mean, I don't have obviously the kind of insight into that you would, but it's crazy to think that somebody could be at one place one week and someplace else the next week. But at the same time, I've seen it happen here as well with, a bona fide change of residence and that kind of thing. So I guess it can happen, but you certainly want to try to limit that.
Yeah, you do, and you mentioned bona fide change of residence. That's probably the most common transfer that where we see students who are eligible immediately, because they are. That's one of it's kind of when you look at it and you look at our bylaws, you've got a set of rules that align with what the fundamental principles are or have been deemed as, quote, acceptable. And then you've got, another set over here that are, unacceptable. All the ones that I just mentioned. I've been recruited under disciplinary action, academic, all this. But they're unlimited. For those that are acceptable, they're unlimited. You transfer 8 times if you have 8 different changes of residence. And could that be manipulated? Do people manipulate that? Do people, secure a false address that doesn't get checked out? We absolutely have. We know that happens. When we find out that happens, when it comes to us, we discipline schools. But is that happening? Absolutely. And there's always going to be some manipulation, but again, those are guardrails. And if you just take all of them away, then you got Florida. So
don't be Florida.
We don't want to be Florida. I don't think anybody wants to be Florida.
Mark Reeves, Executive Director of the TSSAA, joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Mark, in addition to the transfer rule, you guys were also discussing the residence rule. There's only a handful of schools that actually board in Tennessee. I guess St. Andrews, Swanee, Webb School, Baylor, McCallie, and who else?
King's Academy, Grace Christian out of Knoxville. Did you name 4? If you did, then
I named 4. Okay, so there's 6. And it's tough, I guess, to have to make a rule for 6 schools, but at the same time, they do things a little differently, obviously.
Well, I mean, it's, if you're a boarding school, it's very different, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way at all. It's an amazing environment. I've visited all 6 of those schools, met with their headmasters this fall. as this discussion has evolved, and there's been, discussion about amending the residence rule. And so I feel like a much deeper appreciation for what goes on, many of which have had this have been in existence for long periods of time. St. Andrews, King's Academy, we're going back 100 years. College Baylor, rich traditions, all these schools. But I think what the council, what the membership has seen, those who compete against, those schools have felt like that over the last few years that the exception to the residence rule, in other words, the exception that some students would get if they move to that school that they wouldn't have in other schools if they were to move into their area, is one that has grown that has grown tremendously. That being said, the council has talked about this for 3 or 4 years, and they acknowledge the fact that this is different, and they don't want to disrupt what's happening at boarding schools in terms of them being able to take on international population and et cetera. But what came out of that meeting was, and has come out of a number of meetings, they just want this rule to be the same for everybody, and where that lands, we're not quite sure. But that was one of the things that we were charged with, was to bring back some possible ways in which we can make that rule the same for everybody, while minimizing impact on students who may choose to attend. In other words, is there a way to do that without making them ineligible at the varsity level, particularly at these schools where there might not be a junior varsity program. So, if all of a sudden now you got these kids who are ineligible, but there's no JV for them to participate in, we've taken away opportunities, and we don't want to do that. So is there a different way to go about making that the same for everybody? And that's, man, it's been challenging, but we feel like we'll be able to get through that.
Hey, Mark, real quick, I want to put you on the spot. You mentioned celebrating 100 years for you guys, which obviously is a remarkable achievement. Any insight on maybe what is going to be coming from you guys to celebrate that milestone?
Well, we got a couple things up our sleeve that I'll keep under my hat right now. I will say this: I mean, we're not going to have a big banquet or a big event, anything like that. I think we're going to use this time to not just celebrate our history, but also celebrate the history of the member schools that we have, and give our schools the opportunity and some platforms maybe that they haven't had before to tell their stories. So we're really excited about some things that we've got in the works, and I think you'll notice some things here as we get a little closer to April, when that 100-year anniversary is actually here.
Mark, you guys have sanctioned, and we're branching out a little bit from what we initially wanted to talk to you about, but you've sanctioned girls' flag across the state. Is there any kind of a postseason planned at this point for them beyond, Williamson County's tournament, Metro's tournament, Montgomery County's? Is there anything more than that at this point, or how is that coming along?
Yeah, so we're helping coordinate a culminating event that will be hosted. And I apologize, I don't have the date on that, but it's okay. I believe it's in May, early May, and we are working on putting together kind of a qualifying piece for that, and it's probably going to be more at the local level. In other words, we got all those schools that are doing it, 16 different districts. How do they get there? Probably a district champion. I'm not exactly sure. Emily Crowell is the master planner on all that. She's got it all worked out. So I'm butchering her plans right now because I'm not exactly sure what the latest conversation is on that and how they'll qualify. But she's got that figured out. But we're really excited about that, man. That's going to be a lot of fun, and have had a ton of really good feedback from our schools, and we had a number of schools that participated in the fall. That was one thing as an emerging sport,
Mhm.
not officially sanctioned, but it's recognized as emerging. They had flexibility to either play a fall season or a spring season, and some chose to play in the fall. So there's been some great feedback come from that. And I'll say this, I'll give another shout out to Emily. Emily just was selected to serve on the first National Federation of State High School Associations Flag Football Rules Committee. So the NFHS has never had a set of standardized rules like they do with every other sport. So they called together, and she was selected as the Section 3, the Southeastern State Representative, to go to Indianapolis here about 3 weeks ago to sit down and put pen to paper and actually put a rule book together. So that was a really neat experience for her, and tremendous honor for her and really the organization.
Sounds like you got a guest for us here in the next little bit. So.
Hey, she'd be a great one. She could give you a lot more insight than I could, about the inner workings and how that's going and where she's really seeing a lot of the growth, different parts of the state. So yeah, she'd be fantastic.
Sounds good. Mark Reeves, Executive Director of the TSSAA, joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Mark, really appreciate you taking some time with us this afternoon, kind of working through where the transfer rule and to a lesser degree the residence rule stand with the Legislative Council, and we'll be following up on that. And again, good luck to Connor this weekend.
Thank you, Mr. Patton. Really appreciate it, guys. Just thanks for the opportunity. Appreciate what you guys do.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
sir.
Thank you, Mark.
Yep. Take care. We'll see you.
All right. When we continue here on Main Street Sports today, presented by TOA of Columbia, going to get into the grab bag. It's pretty weighted with basketball, but a lot of good stuff. So stick around when we come back.
You wanna be a bad man? Yes, you do. Do you wanna taste sweet salvation underneath the summer moon? Do you need another hand now? Yes, you do. Go see Miss Josie down on Columbus Avenue. All right, Columbus Avenue.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Hey guys, Wade Neely here, one half of Main Street Sports today, reminding you that Zoolumination continues right here at the Nashville Zoo. It's the nation's largest outdoor lantern festival. Some impressive stuff that has something for everybody here in the Music City. So again, Zoolumination rolling along all the way through February 9th. Make sure you grab your tickets now.
weekend warm-up continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. We talked to Ben McKee from Go Vols 24/7 yesterday, and pretty much the consensus among the three of us was, hopefully Tennessee can keep things close when number 5 UConn comes to Thompson Bowling Arena at that time in a couple of hours. Well, they did more than keep it close. Final score, Tennessee 80, UConn 76. Signature victory, you would think, for first-year Lady Vols coach Kim Caldwell, kind of announcing their presence with authority. And, stats, you can make stats say a lot of things, Wade, but when people say it's the first time Tennessee has beaten UConn since 2007, it ain't like they've played every year since then. They've only played 4 times between 2007 and last night. So it's not like UT was just dismal for 13 years against UConn. It's still a huge victory, but they had only played 4 times between winning in 2007 and winning last night. So let's not overblow this thing.
Well, I mean, yeah, 2 things true, obviously. They have not beat them since then, but also to your point, yeah, they hadn't played that many times. So it's beauty's in the eye of the beholder, I suppose, in that regard. But everything you just said is right. I mean, this is a big win for Tennessee for confidence purposes, for national kind of reputation purposes, everything kind of that you want out of this win. The only downside, Mo, is this was not an SEC win. And that's kind of what Tennessee, in a weird way, probably would have hoped even more. You hopefully now use this as fuel to start stacking up some SEC wins, because now you've kind of proven, hey, we can hang with the big dogs, especially on our home court. So at a minimum, we should be able to try and hold serve at home the rest of the way.
Yeah, and they had hung with some of the powers of the Southeastern Conference. They had come up on the short end of most of those games, but I mean they played a lot of really close ball games in league play this year. Pushed South Carolina. They pushed was it LSU? Have they already played LSU once? They've had some tough losses, to say the least. Don't have their schedule right in front of me. Yeah, okay. I was trying to get my schedule up and struggling to do so. But, I mean, yeah, they lost by 4 to Texas, lost by 1 to Vanderbilt, lost by 2 to LSU. They lost by 1 to Oklahoma. I think that was their first loss of the season. So it's not like they've been that far away, but they certainly got over the hump last night with that 80-76 victory. And like you said, it's got to be a confidence builder for them to finally get one of those close ball games after coming up short in so many instances previously.
Absolutely. And the reward is right on cue, a trip to LSU. Man, that's what stinks, right? If you had, it's kind of hard to say, but I think most fans would agree, if you're going to win, if you could only win LSU or UConn, you probably want to win the LSU game, especially considering it's on the road. But who's to say you can't go out and win both? And yeah, with some extra confidence, with the 3-pointer, as Ben said yesterday, and we've talked about a bunch, is kind of that great equalizer. Maybe you go out and grab another top 10 victory coming up on Sunday.
Here's the thing. Regardless of what happens to LSU at LSU on Sunday, it feels like the schedule kind of turns for the Lady Vols a little bit after that, because they've got Ole Miss and Alabama both at home. They go to Florida, they go to number 11 Kentucky, and then they finish up against Georgia in Knoxville. So the stretch run for UT is really a chance for them to kind of do some damage, it feels like.
Absolutely. Just 2 ranked teams at the moment on your schedule, and one of them you get at home in Alabama. So chance to close on a promising note if you're Tennessee, win or lose Sunday versus LSU, and, maybe start building a little momentum, catch fire down the stretch, and then see what happens in the SEC tournament and beyond at that point.
Absolutely. Some movement in WNBA free agency involving a couple of players of local note. Former Mount Juliet standout, current Athletes Unlimited player Alicia Clark is leaving the Las Vegas Aces, going back to Seattle, where she won a WNBA championship and was named Sixth Woman of the Year.
Won 2 titles in Seattle.
Yeah, 1, 2 in 18 and 20. Yeah. Headed back to the Storm. Despite Vegas's Aces to try to keep her around. So I'm interested to hear more about that, but apparently it sounds as if the Aces just ran out of money as it related to Alicia. So she's headed back to Seattle again, where she's won a couple of championships. So you lose a Lady Raider, you add a Lady Raider, because Cheyenne Parker Tyus, who had previously played with Atlanta, has signed with the Aces. Averaged 15 points, 6.5 rebounds 2 years ago, and was a WNBA All-Star. Had a dealt with some left ankle issues this past year. Finishing with 9 points, 4.8 rebounds. Made 11 starts. But it sounds like she and Asia are going to play together up front for the Aces, and that should be fun.
Yeah, kind of shift a little bit. Obviously, you knew what you had in Asia, but, you were relying a little bit to carry, especially with Plum in your backcourt. And now maybe, flip the script just a little bit. You can pretty much bank on your MVP doing what she does every single night, but adding a little extra depth kind of alongside her, and maybe, play a little inside out in that regard. Should be fun to kind of watch their new construction this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Aces are always fun to watch, but they've had some movement this time around, obviously, and it'll be interesting to watch how they evolve with some of these new pieces that Becky Hannon has to work with. Shout out to LeBron James, the youngest player to score 40 points in the NBA, is now also the oldest player to score 40 points in a game in the NBA. Had 42, 17 boards, and 8 assists last night as the Lakers defeated Golden State 120-112.
Yeah, it was fun to watch down the stretch. Everybody was kind of celebrating that achievement, but LeBron, you could tell he's fired up about the Luka deal, because he was acting a little squirrely last night. Draymond gets teed up late, and LeBron's letting him have it at the free throw line. He was feeling himself, and why not, right? 42, 17, and 8. Probably not going to be able to bank on that type of line going forward, but man, him and Luka getting paired together is going to be fun. He had the swagger back a little bit last night, although it was against the Warriors.
Yeah, and it sounds like Luka's going to be back, not this weekend, but the Lakers are expecting him to play Monday when they play the Jazz.
Yeah, thought he was getting ready to roll on Saturday, and the execs were kind of drooling about that, and now things have changed, and it looks like Monday, which is still kind of a bump up. They didn't initially think he would be back till maybe right after the All-Star break. Funny what a new change of scenery will do. All of a sudden, he seems like he's ready to go coming up Monday.
Well, maybe the West Coast was good for his calf strain.
Get back on it. He's a huge video game guy. I was joking, he's out on the West Coast servers now. He probably has a little bit better internet access than he did in Dallas. So a chance for Luka. He's coming up. He's hit the jackpot right now.
Meanwhile, a nugget from Major League Baseball. Shohei Ohtani's translator, or former translator, Ippei Mizuhara, has been sentenced to 57 months for stealing $17 million to repay gambling debts, and has been ordered to make a repayment and restitution for about that amount, along with $1.1 million to the IRS. So Mizuhara gets 57 months, 3 years of supervised release, and is going to have to pay nearly $18 million either to Ohtani or to the IRS. Good luck.
That's good for the bookies inside the joint, right?
You
They got
know,
they got a mark coming in. They're thinking my man lost 17 million. Let's go ahead and sign him up. We'll take all your action.
if I'm him, I think I'm done with that. You got to be done with that life, don't you?
It's tough to kick, man. Addiction is a bad thing, and I mean that is across all walks of life. I'm not trying to
Yeah.
minimize that. So
Yeah.
we shall see. But yeah, it doesn't look like we'll be hearing from him anytime soon.
Oh, we should probably mention 1-800-GAMBLER if
There we
you
go.
are one of those problematic guys. Let's take a break here at the end of the first hour of the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, we'll talk a little NFL. Stick around.
Hi, I'm Dr. Vilay Saisuka, CEO and founder of Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee here in Murfreesboro. We offer foot and ankle care from ingrown toenails to diabetic foot wounds. We also fix ankle fractures and things like that.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today. Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
So Busy Bee is a very close-knit family. We fight just like every family does. We have arguments, but we always come out with a solution to the problems. We don't just fight about what we want, we fight about what customers need. We want to make sure that every customer we go to is more than satisfied. And that doesn't just start whenever we show up at their door, that starts when we show up every day at work. We want to make sure that we are serving our customers to the best of our ability.
It's hour number 2 of the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. Super Bowl again, Sunday, 5:30, roughly, on Fox. But they had their NFL honors night last night, and the biggest honor, 2024 Most Valuable Player Award, went to Buffalo Bills quarterback Josh Allen. And there was much consternation regarding that decision. Allen received 27 of 50 first place votes. The other 23 went to Lamar Jackson. I think voters voted for 5 players. And while Lamar Jackson received 23 first place votes, he also received 1 fourth place vote. Now, I don't know. Lamar Jackson, the 4th best player in the NFL this year. Somebody got to explain their rationale to me on that one. But Wade, how surprised are we that it was Allen and not Jackson for that award?
I'd say fairly surprised, just in the sense, how do you vote one guy as the AP All-Pro quarterback, and then the same group of voters select somebody different for MVP? And this is such an award. I mean, it's basically the best quarterback award. Let's really call it what it is. Otherwise, we'd be talking about Saquon Barkley as your MVP. But if we're voting for the best quarterback award, how do you vote one guy the best quarterback in one poll and not the other? Is the only thing I don't understand.
When you're the same voters.
Right.
Jackson got 30 of the 50 first place votes in the All-Pro voting, and Allen got 18. There were only 2 instances in the past 50 years where a quarterback, where the first team All-Pro quarterback did not win MVP. Twice. Specifically, John Elway wasn't a first-team All-Pro, but did win MVP in 1987. And apparently Joe Montana and Jerry Rice kind of split the vote. Elway kind of slid in there. Steve McNair was not all first-team All-Pro in 2003, but was MVP. He was co-MVP along with Peyton Manning. So, both kind of extenuating circumstances there, but it's and again, it's not like Josh Allen didn't have a great season. It just feels like, to the naked eye, it feels like Lamar Jackson had a better year when you start looking at the stats. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I mean, and also you throw in that if we're looking at stats, Burrow should have been the guy that won that award last night, but if you're factoring the whole kind of piece of the pie together, that's the only thing that I have a real gripe or problem with, is how does the same pool not pick the same guy? And to answer your question, Jim Miller is the guy that you're looking for, Mo, former NFL quarterback. Not the first time he's kind of gone against Lamar. So send him your message. I look forward to your tagging him on X there, because he had him 4th. He had Burrow listed as 3rd. He had Saquon 2nd, and he had Josh Allen 1st. And as you might expect, the internet is tagging him accordingly.
Having its way with him.
Tom Brady voted Lamar Jackson as your MVP, but Jim Miller, decided he'd be 4th.
It's interesting, and there's been some question raised about the panel of voters on this thing, and I don't know what Jim Miller's capacity is post football that allows him a vote, but it's maybe that's where your breakdown is. Maybe you got some folks voting that shouldn't be. I don't know. And you don't want to overreact over one vote, but it's odd, really, to me, that Lamar Jackson, again, particularly when you look at it the way you did, that he's your first team All-Pro quarterback, but he's not your MVP. So, other awards presented last night. Joe Burrow was your comeback player of the year. He's now won that award twice. That's not great. But,
well, the main thing with that is, I guess at the end of the day, props to the voters for at least getting that right. Because there was a groundswell for Sam Darnold, or excuse me, for Darnold. Yeah. And the question becomes, what did he exactly come back from?
Yeah, you have to have been there to come back, don't you?
And they didn't even, yeah, and they didn't even the AP was instructed in like December, which I found the timing very odd too, that they were technically eligible to vote for him. So if you have to issue a statement saying, yeah, you can actually vote for this guy, that kind of tells you all you need to know. So Burrow was, you're right, winner. J.K. Dobbins finished second in that vote, and he almost had to win comeback player of the year twice in the same season because he had two different injuries this year, and that's after missing last season. So Burrow is worthy, but man, Dobbins was snake bit as well. And that's good to see Burrow receive some sort of recognition because that dude had an insane year.
Right.
And the Bengals just missed out on the cusp, closing the year on like a 6-game win streak and just barely missing the playoffs.
Saquon's your AP Offensive Player of the Year. Patrick Surtain the second is your Defensive Player of the Year. As expected, Washington quarterback Jaden Daniels is your Offensive Rookie of the Year. Jaden Verse of the Rams is your Defensive Rookie of the Year. And Kevin O'Connell earned Coach of the Year honors. So congrats to all of them. Congrats also to Sterling Sharp, one of 4 who will be inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame this summer. A short but impactful career as a receiver for the Green Bay Packers, played from 88 to 94, and the numbers that he put up before sustaining a career-ending neck injury were ungodly. 595 catches, 8,134 yards, and 65 touchdowns. Again, that's in 112 games. That's 7 seasons that he put those numbers up. At that time, at the time of his retirement, that was the most in NFL history by a player in their first 7 seasons. I mean, had 18 touchdown catches in his final year. It's not like he was, dropping off, but it's just, the neck injury that kept him from being able to pursue his career any further. And it was terribly unfortunate, led the league in catches 3 different years in 5 years. First NFL player to record 2 100-catch seasons. He was just a force of nature, man. I wasn't a huge Green Bay fan at the time, but he was fantastic to watch. And Wade, I hate that you don't really have the firsthand view of him, but trust me, he was a beast.
I remember Sterling Sharp, maybe not in his prime, but you gave all those numbers. That's not even counting the numbers I put up with him on Tecmo Bowl. So those numbers are even more eye-popping. And man, talk about tough luck. As cool as it was and what a moment it should have been. And then last night, they totally botched the introduction of him as he gets his call to the Hall of Fame. They zoom the camera to the next guy, Eric Allen, and they have the graphic for Sterling Sharp up. So not only did they ruin the suspense of Allen, but then they misidentified Sharp. So he didn't even get his props even on the moment when he should have the most. It was a tough look last night.
That's unfortunate. Sterling joins Eric Allen, Jared Allen, and Antonio Gates in this 2025 induction class. He will also join his younger brother, Shannon, in the Hall of Fame, and they become the first brother tandem in the Hall of Fame. And man, that's I can't imagine. I mean, I remember Shannon's acceptance speech when he was inducted, and he said he's got to be the only guy in the Hall of Fame who's the second best player in his family. And so for both of them to now be in, and it kind of makes you wonder what Sterling's going to say when he gets to the podium this summer.
Good group. Like you said, electric player in Sterling Sharp. Shannon Sharp, obviously, certainly in his own right. But yeah, you got him, the 2 Allens, and then Gates, the smallest induction class since 2005. But man, it was a good class.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Antonio Gates' story is just so fantastic. Never played college football. He was a basketball player, and how you go from college basketball to Pro Football Hall of Fame is really mind-boggling. But to watch him on the field, if you didn't know he didn't play college football, you wouldn't know. Again, another force of nature, kind of revolutionized to some degree the tight end position during his career with the Chargers, the San Diego Chargers, as I so often misspeak, but that's where he actually played. So
yeah, and if you're a Chargers fan, man, talk about that. That brings up some bad wounds, because you're like, man, we had this guy and we had LT in both in their primes, and don't have much to show for it. That's tough, because they had some electric teams, but never got to be on the hump in the postseason.
That's really unfortunate. They got to one Super Bowl with them, right? With Stan Humphries a quarterback.
Well, with Phillip Rivers is not with LT and Gates, but you're going back to when Steve Young thrashed the boys back in '94, right there.
Yeah, I remembered it was a thrashing. Yeah, my fault. Starts to run together, but yeah. Again, Gates was obviously one of the best at what he did, and getting into the Hall of Fame, along with Eric Allen, Jared Allen, and now Sterling Sharp. So congrats to that bunch. That's wild. Only 4, like you said, the smallest in 20 years. That's wonder what the rationale is behind that.
I don't know. It might just be numbers breakdown, right?
Yeah.
Didn't reach a certain threshold.
Gotcha. All right. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return, we will be joined by Jim DERRY of the New Orleans Times-Picayune's DATTITUDE podcast. Stick around.
Hi, I'm Riley, a certified physician associate here at Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee. We have a couple locations, Murfreesboro, McMinnville, as well as Franklin. We treat people of all ages. We're excited to get you back on your feet and hope we can help you today.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
You're seeing the signs too, right?
What signs?
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
We continue the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today here, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. And we now have with us from NOLA, Jim DERRY, host of the DATTITUDE podcast. And I love that name. If you know the Saints, then you know the who dat. And so it might need explaining elsewhere. But Jim, we appreciate you taking some time with us this afternoon.
Glad to do it. You got to have a little DATTITUDE sometimes, and we do in New Orleans, and it's been an interesting week and here in the city, and yeah, we're excited to join you. Thank you. Thanks for the invite.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure it has been an interesting week when the Super Bowl shows up in your town. I imagine things get interesting real quick. You've been on Radio Row all week, and I imagine you're about ready for the game to get played and get over with.
You can say that again and again. It's been a long week. Don't get me wrong. To have the honor to be able to be on Radio Row all week is a fun thing, and you get to see. I was talking yesterday. It's not every day you get to see within 30 feet of one another Cam Newton and Joe Montana standing there. Which is pretty cool in itself. But that's the kind of thing that goes on Radio Row, and been able to talk to a lot of great people over the course of the past 4 days. But it was really good to do my show this morning from my own home studio here in Mandeville, Louisiana, which is about 30 miles north of the city.
Get out and get away from the hubbub a little bit, I guess.
Absolutely. I'll be back over there on Sunday.
What feel are you getting from the game, having talked to all the folks that you've talked to and hearing from all the folks that you've heard from?
Kind of surprising because, one of my backgrounds is from the betting aspect of things. And I think it's fairly clear that the general public is about 70% on Philadelphia. But the people that we talk to, former players and media people from around the entire nation, really, it's more Kansas City. So I was kind of surprised to see that, I guess. So I think it's kind of a hodgepodge. And whenever you have a line or a spread that's this close, I don't think you could be that surprised that you have opinions ranging all over the spectrum. This morning on my show, again, I think average Joe Q public is on Philadelphia. I think the people in the know are probably more on Kansas City.
Jim, I'm curious on that breakdown. In your mind, why is the public on Philly, and why did Vegas just nail the number? It feels like it hasn't moved ever since they posted it.
It hasn't really. In fact, we use DraftKings more than any other book for our regular number. Now, we did have a Caesars exact on the other day, so I used the Caesars numbers that day. But
well played.
But the DraftKings number hasn't moved literally in 10 days. It hasn't moved an inch. Neither the spread nor the total has moved, nor the money line for that matter. So it's been stuck at 1.5 Kansas City. And I think they did nail the number. I think that shows you that it's most likely going to be a very close game. But in answer to your first question about why do I think the public is on Philadelphia, and I think it's the same reason why they think that there is a NFL bias and the officials are cheating. I just think they're tired of Kansas City, and a lot of times people bet with their heart. The general public bets with their heart more times than not. And I think they just want Philly to win. They're sick of Kansas City. They're sick of God winning the Super Bowl. And, I always talk about never betting against God. And he just keeps on winning, and he has a chance to win 4 out of 5 and do something that no one's ever done before and win 3 in a row. So I think basically that's the general public. And then I think when you talk about players appreciate more what Kansas City's been able to do. And I think they want to be Patrick Mahomes, right? They want to be Chris Jones. They want to be all those guys that have a chance to get another ring. And so I think that's why they're probably more on the side of Kansas City.
Makes sense. And as somebody that has been bitten by Kansas City a time or two in the last couple of postseasons, I don't know that I have it in me. I just can't do it. So that's why I did find it fascinating. The fatigue factor almost feels at play here, you're sounding like.
It is. And, it's hard not to. We're all human, right? Even the people with a lot of money and who know what they're talking about. A lot of the, more sharps than not that I've either talked to or have seen on social media and respect, more than not have taken Philadelphia as well. But we're all human. And so I think a bias plays into it. And it's a tough pick. There's for sure. My favorite handicapper, Adam Chernoff, who's actually from Canada, so I can't even call him a national handicapper, but he's a guy that I've had on my show many times. Very well known, well respected handicapper. Says he likes Kansas City, but not enough to bet it. So he's not even betting the game. He's making prop bets more than anything. So I think a lot of the respected bettors, they're staying away from the spread and the money line, and they're doing more individual prop bets from what they've seen through they're going through the numbers and such.
Interesting stuff from Jim DERRY, host of the DATTITUDE podcast out of New Orleans, joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Just talking prop bets, Jim. What's one of the more popular ones that you've seen to this point?
Well, there's an interesting a few ways to go about it, and one of the prop bets that I was the aforementioned Adam Chernoff likes, and I've jumped on the bandwagon on this one. Okay. He thinks that there are going to be a lot of secondary players that are going to play a big role. You know, we could talk about Saquon Barkley and Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown and Travis Kelce all day long. But he thinks that the secondary players are going to play a bigger role in this game than they might normally play. And one of the names that he brought up, and I found the number interesting, is Jahan Dotson. He only has to make one catch to get his over pay off. And I like that one. That's one of we had a best bet show this morning where we had 3 individual plays plus the spread. And one of my individual plays was stealing from Adam and saying that I like that as well. I think Jahan Dotson is going to play a role in this game. One of my cohorts thinks that D-Hop is going to make a play in this game. You guys in Tennessee know a lot about DeAndre Hopkins and what he's done. Now, my cohort is also a Texans fan, so it's kind of interesting. Texans, the Titans, they all know a little bit about D-Hop. So I think he also will play a role in this game. One number that I like that the experts don't necessarily like, I think Jalen Hurts is going to be able to run the ball in this game. His over-under rushing total right now is 38.5 at DraftKings, and I like the over in that number because I think there's going to be – I think that Spagnuolo is going to have a tough time trying to figure out, is it going to be Saquon or is Jalen Hurts going to throw the ball to A.J. Brown? Well, guess what? Jalen Hurts may run the ball as well, and I think he's been known to break 1 or 2. If he runs the ball 4 or 5 times and one of those runs is for 20, 24 yards, then I think it's an easy get, and I think that there's a good chance that does happen in this game. Those are the 2 player props that I like the most.
I'm also curious on the other side of that. Do we fancy any props rushing for Mahomes, perhaps? We saw him with a unique script in his last outing with the 2 touchdowns. But one thing I have been fascinated is carries. If Kansas City does win, those kneel downs count for attempts. A little chance to pad some stats there. Some folks are privy to.
They sure do. And we have 3. It's me and 2 other guys when we do our Pick'em segment. And these 2 guys are really good at it. And one of the guys did pick Mahomes rushing over, which is right now at 28.5 yards. I don't necessarily like that, but I have a hard time getting on any other rushing prop. But I will say this about Patrick Mahomes. One thing that I have made money off of in these playoffs, and I will do it again, is his interception prop. It's like somewhere like minus 130, so there is some juice to it, but I'm betting against him to throw an interception. I think he will not throw an interception in this game. So when you're talking about God, again, there ain't, you got to go back to Tom Brady as the last God. I'm not betting against Patrick Mahomes. I think he will have another almost error-free game, whether Kansas City wins or not. And I like Patrick Mahomes under 0.5 interceptions, which means he's not going to throw one again.
I thought I saw a graphic somewhere at some point this week. He's got like 288 attempts without a pick to this point.
You just jinxed it, Maurice. It's going to happen now. You can blame yourself when that. No, I'm just kidding. That is true, though. And he has been phenomenal in the playoffs, obviously, because of his record and how many rings he's got on his finger. Look, even if you like Philly in this game, I think we all can agree we would be surprised if Patrick Mahomes didn't have an excellent game.
And Jim, to your point about the fatigue with the Chiefs, at the same time, you've got to have some admiration for what they've been able to do and what he's been able to do. I mean, he's been in the league. This is his 7th year. He's been to the Super Bowl 5 times. The other 2 times he lost in the AFC Championship game. I mean, we're kind of seeing, and the term gets thrown around a lot, but if he's not the GOAT, he's certainly approaching that type status.
We've had this conversation on my show a lot especially the last few weeks. I brought it up in the last summer. And I just think, look, I get what Tom Brady's done is just insane. And for me, my GOAT has always been Joe Montana. Probably because I'm older and I grew up and the 49ers were in the Saints division and Joe Montana just kicked the Saints' butt all the time. And we got tired of seeing that. And he was just that darn good, right?
Right.
But I think Patrick Mahomes, if he wins this game, I think you seriously have to consider, is he the greatest of all time? And it's not just because of Super Bowl, because I'm not one of these guys who looks at number of championships. To me, it's not just championships. To me, it's Patrick Mahomes doing things that other players just simply can't do. And it's not just about championships. There was a play, it was a 4th down play, I believe against the Texans, where he's about to get sacked. He's going down, and on his way down, going forward, almost face first, there's Travis Kelce, and he fires one in with his feet in the air behind him. It's just things like that people can't do and make me believe that I really think I'm starting to lean towards Patrick Mahomes being the greatest of all time. And I'm certainly not one who says, look at me now. What have you done for me lately? Again, because, we can go into the LeBron Jordan debate all day. We can talk about who's the greatest player in baseball. I'm going to go back way in time for that one. But when you're talking about football, I think it is Patrick Mahomes, and I think he can put the capper on that this weekend.
Patrick Mahomes, who will be 30 in mid-September.
Insane, isn't it?
It really is. Jim DERRY of the DATTITUDE podcast joining us here on Main Street Sports today. Jim, y'all gonna hire a coach?
Oh, goodness. I'm so tired of talking about this. There are only so many, when you're putting up title slides for your show, there's only so many ways to present the coaching search for the Saints, which is what obviously most people want to hear about when we go on the air. I think it's done. I think that it's got to be either Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. I think it's got to be Kellen. Does Kellen Moore even get back on the plane to go back to Philadelphia is the question. If I'm the Saints, if I'm Mickey Loomis, I'm making sure I got my credential and I'm standing next to Kellen Moore after that thing's over and make sure, look, don't get on that plane. So I think it's almost a done deal. I think we've been talking in the last few days. If you're a Saints fan and you're just tired of the search, whether you like Kellen Moore or don't, you just want it to be over. I think silence is a good thing in this scenario. And the fact that we haven't heard anything all week that it could be anybody else. I had some people asking me this morning who I think it would be if it's not Kellen Moore. And I don't even want to answer the question, because I said 2 weeks ago that if it wasn't Mike McCarthy or Kellen Moore, I would have to eat paper live on the air. And so I certainly don't want to do that. I'm obviously rooting for Kellen Moore, and I want it to be done right now.
Coaching searches are awful, aren't they?
It's monotonous, and it's like, you talk about beating a dead horse. I mean, it really is getting old, and it gets to the point now where even if it's not the guy you wanted, I think most of us wanted Aaron Glenn. When you're talking about when the search began, I think he was clear. Aaron Glenn clearly was the Saints' first choice. I think Aaron Glenn was clearly the fans' first choice, and honestly, most of us here in the press, our first choice as well. But when he chose the Jets, which wasn't a surprise, it shouldn't have been a surprise to the Saints, but I think it clearly was. I think their egos got the best of them. I think they thought because they wanted Aaron Glenn that they're going to will it into existence. It doesn't work that way. They haven't had a lot of coaching searches here in New Orleans over the past 20 years. So, again, I think Mickey Loomis just wasn't used to it. But when they had to regroup and figure out next who it was going to be and whether it was between McCarthy or Kellen Moore, you're right. I mean, it can be old, it can be tired and monotonous, but it's something, Maurice, we've been talking about here in New Orleans, not just for the past few weeks since the season's been over. I mean, we've been talking about this since before Dennis Allen got fired in November. I mean, I think I know for certain that, 85% of Hoodats wanted Dennis Allen fired after last year's season when they finished 9-8 with a historically easy schedule, and him shaking hands with Alfred Smith, who didn't even make it back on the plane without being fired by the hated Atlanta Falcons. And he went and shook his hand and apologized because they ran up the score. I mean, this is the Falcons. We don't care if you ran up the score. You don't apologize. That'd be like, you guys apologizing. I mean, You probably don't like the Texans. You don't like the Jaguars. You don't like the Colts. Whoever your most hated team is, you don't go apologize to them when it's over. And so Dennis Allen made some enemies here. We've been talking about this for a year, and I am certainly ready for this to be over with, no matter who it is, and we hope it's done, again, no later than Wednesday.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say Jamal Williams, getting in a couple times, rubbing a little salt in the wound last year. But
That's
Jim,
right.
I did want to ask the other big talking point, obviously, other than the coaching search, is the salary cap situation. And I'm curious, how big of a deterrent is that to attracting maybe a candidate by now? And what are the steps to kind of try and clear some of that cap hell that you're in?
Well, I think there's no question that it played a factor when you're talking about a Mike McCarthy. I mean, because Mike McCarthy, he doesn't have to take a job. He's only 61 years old. So, I mean, he can wait. He can sit out just like he did before when he ended up, taking the Dallas job. He didn't need to take a job after he left Green Bay. He didn't. He sat out a season. It worked out just fine for him. And I think he saw, do I really want to go to New Orleans? Do I want to force he doesn't have to? But for a guy like Kellen Moore, I don't necessarily think that the cap situation is that big of a deterrent because, look, he's been an OC as young as he is at age 36. He's been an OC since 2019. How many opportunities are you going to get? If he goes back to Philadelphia, he takes the risk of maybe Philly has a season more like they had in 2023 and not in 2024. Maybe he's not as wanted as some might think. So I think that that's not a deterrent to him. But look, it is a big issue. We've been talking about it for quite a while now. The Saints keep kicking the can down the road. It's why a lot of people are upset with Mickey Loomis. And when you are $52 million over the salary cap, I mean, how can it not be a deterrent? You don't just fix that because the Saints aren't just 32nd when it comes to over the salary cap. 31 is like from here to Nashville, okay? That's how far away 32 to 31 is. It's not an easy fix, and they're going to have to, I mean, we were talking about this morning that there is going to be no other option that to some extent somebody's salaries are going to have to be deferred. They are going to have to do this in some respects. Again, you don't want to do it again, but you're going to kind of have to do it at least a little bit, whether it's Derek Carr or whether it's 3 or 4 other players that you're going to have to quote unquote kick cans. You're going to have to do something. Most likely you will probably restructure Derek Carr's contract again, and that will not make Saints fans happy.
So you do expect Derek Carr to be on the roster then in 25?
Well, you got 2 options in my opinion, and I think that you either restructure to some extent. 3 options really. You restructure to some extent. You cut him post June 1, and you save $30 million, or you just eat it, and it is what it is, and you eat that $50 million. And I just don't see this organization doesn't have it in them to be the organization that just sits around and says, we're going to fully eat it. They just can't help themselves sometimes, Maurice, and they love to kick can. This can is, those old tin cans that after you kick them and play with them and they rust it open and you can cut your finger on it because it's rusty. And now that's kind of how the can is here in New Orleans. It's kind of like an old beer can that's been sitting around in the street since 1978 or something along those lines. But that I don't know that they have a lot of options because, you're talking about some of the other players they can restructure. I mean, Cam Jordan, we love Cam Jordan to death, but how much longer is he going to play football? How long do you want to restructure that contract? You got a dead salary cap hit with Ryan Ramczyk sitting here. He's not even playing football anymore. He's retired, your former right tackle. So, there's other things you do. You've already restructured Alvin Kamara. He's going to be a 30-year-old running back as well as he played. He's here for 2 more years. You can go look. Tyrann Mathieu has got a big salary on the books. Do you restructure him? But then you're forced to probably have to keep him for 2 more years. So there's all sorts of things you can look at. It's just how much can you stand? Taysom Hill, how bad is his injury going to linger into next year? Will he be ready for September? I find it hard to believe that he will with the massive knee injury that he suffered. I don't know. So there's all sorts of things that you can do, but I just think that the one that makes the most sense, again, Saints fans are ready to just get rid of Derek Carr. A lot of them are, but I don't know what your next option is. I think he's the bridge to the future, whoever that might be. So I think that restructuring him makes the most sense.
Are either Spencer Rattler or Jack Hayner justifiable, realistic options?
Talked to Spencer Rattler yesterday, as a matter of fact. Jake Haener, I say no. I think Jake Haener is probably going to be gone from this roster. I think he's had his chances. Well, yeah, I say that, and I'm like, I don't know that he's had enough fair chances, but in the organization's eyes, the little bit of chances that he had, he didn't make enough of his opportunities, and I think the chances are that he's probably going to be gone. He doesn't cost the team anything. Spencer Rattler, I don't necessarily think they will cut. I think he probably will stick around at a bare minimum as a second quarterback. If they were to draft a quarterback, he could end up being maybe the third string quarterback, or whoever they draft could be a practice squad guy. I just don't see when the guy, and I know it's unfair of me to say Spencer Rattler went 0-6 with a lot of second string, third string, and fourth string guys.
One of those games up in Green Bay too, versus a good defense
on a Monday night.
Yeah.
Scored 0. First shutout for the Saints, and I can't remember how many dozen plus years it was, but it was a long time since the Saints had been shut out. And so that one was on national TV. Everyone saw that. So I just don't see how this unless you're doing a tank of sorts and you're saying, I don't care for 2 and 15, and maybe we try to get Arch Manning, or there's a very deep quarterback class in 2026. Maybe you think about that. I don't know. But unless you're doing something like that, I don't see how Spencer Rattler can be your starting quarterback. Although the fans, they're split. A lot of them think that Spencer Rattler can be the next quarterback of the New Orleans Saints and could be a savior. I'm just not in that camp.
Those that think Spencer Rattler could be the guy, is that an anybody but Carr type thing?
I think if you ask them, most of them would probably say no. But if you could dive into their head and give them truth serum and make them take a lie detector test, yes. There are just so many people. And look, when you talk about Derek Carr, I mean, one of the biggest problems for Derek Carr is he's not Drew Brees. And whoever follows Drew Brees is gonna be in that boat. I mean, right? I mean, you just can't follow a legend like that. And there's no question that he's not Drew Brees. He's a middle of the road quarterback. He's maybe bottom of above average, one of those things. If you look at his numbers, he's 21st all time in passing yards. And I defend Derek Carr by talking about he's every year except one in his career, and not including this year because he was injured for a lot of it, but every full season except for one, he has been 12th or better in the NFL in passing. And people don't realize that, but they're just tired of it. They want some savior. They want a young guy, or they just, I don't know, some Saints fans thinks that some free agent's going to want to come play in this mess here in New Orleans. And I just don't see that being the case. So I think right now the Saints' best option and the bridge to the future, I don't think Derek Carr's the future for this organization at all, but I do think he's the bridge to the future. I think the future for this team is not on this roster at the moment.
Jim DERRY, host of the DATTITUDE podcast, joining us here on Main Street Sports today. Jim, we are hoping that you get an announcement Monday or Tuesday that it is Kellen Moore, because similar to the Saints cap hell, we hope you can get out of coaching search hell and get on to some bigger and better things. But we appreciate you taking some time with us this afternoon.
Glad to do it. And you guys know what coaching search hell is. And we wish, go real quick, the last thing I'll say on the coaching search is we wish we could have got your former coach, Mike Vrabel, because I think he would have fit in well. I don't know. Maybe y'all think differently about Mike Vrabel than we do, but I think he would have fit in nicely here.
He'd look good in black and gold down there.
He would look good in black and gold. He probably look good down on the French Quarter too. Jim, we appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jim.
All right. Hey, let's take a break. Let's get back for the final segment of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. It's the weekend warm-up. Stay tuned.
I hadn't forgot that. You know what they say, let's go Strokes.
People are amazed at the variety and quality of guests we bring into Main Street Sports Today. But when you've been in this business for nearly 40 years and you never throw away a phone number, it's pretty easy. Right, Wade?
Absolutely. and Win agrees with me. Check out some of our guests featured on Main Street Sports today.
Step back and catch my breath.
But I expect nothing less from you, big boy. Let's get going.
We make it work pretty good. So
the fans are tremendous. It's fantastic.
It was really amazing.
They call it performance. Yeah.
From preps to pros, you never know who's going to stop by, so be sure to listen to and watch Main Street Sports Today from 2 to 4 p.m. daily on the MSM TV app. It is the final segment of the week here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. It's the weekend warm-up. Let's start at Bridgestone Arena, where the Predators would certainly like to warm up, having dropped their last 5. But good news, the Blackhawks are in the building tonight.
On the road, right?
Is it on the road?
I believe they're on the road.
You are correct. They are on the road. They come back home tomorrow, so I thought they were home for both these. They're home tomorrow against Buffalo. I'm sorry. Yes, they are at Chicago, but I don't know that it matters where they play the Blackhawks.
It shouldn't. That is for sure. And Vegas still's got Nashville favored in this game tonight, so that kind of tells you all you need to know. But as we've said before, this is a team that can beat anybody on any given night, can lose to anybody on any given night. These are the ones, there aren't many. You better win these games for a franchise that's kind of downtrodden like Nashville is at the moment. But this is kind of one where you better win this game tonight.
And you wonder just where this team is right now. I think they made a couple of call-ups for Milwaukee this week that will be in action tonight at Chicago. So I don't know if we are transitioning toward, accepting the fate at this point, or if you're still trying to make a push, or what's where this team is. But again, they have lost 5 straight after winning 5 straight. So, to your point, they can beat just about anybody, and they can certainly lose to just about anybody, because they've shown us that over the course of this season. Really been a disappointing campaign for the Predators to this point. But
and a couple and tonight, obviously, hopefully take care of business, get Buffalo. Then you're on the hiatus, getting ready to come up before the Four Nations face off. But then that trade deadline is right around the corner too, Mo, in early March. So to your point a moment ago, it feels like this is kind of a weird stretch for the Preds in a sense. There might be a lot of evaluation that goes on while they have this little 2-week break coming up.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get one of these next 2, because again, like you said, after this one at Chicago, after tomorrow night at home against Buffalo, they don't play again until the 22nd. You don't want a 7-game losing streak looming over that 2-week break, I don't think. So hopefully they can get some things done here over this next couple of games. The Grizzlies got a big one Saturday as the Thunder comes to town.
Yeah, it's going to be a massive game. The Grindhouse will be rocking. This will be a game that kind of gets, fans a little jazzed up more than your average regular season game. And Memphis has been playing very well, 9-1 in their last 10. They've won 4 in a row, and they have the big dogs coming to town. And the Thunder and the Grizz are very similar in a sense. They're both kind of younger teams.
Mm-hmm.
Both have been constructed nicely with some shrewd business and kind of some moves that have kind of set them up nicely, not just for this season, but for the next couple. So a chance to kind of let it all hang out Saturday night. I look forward to watching that one. I think it'll be a fun game. And maybe if the bracket, breaks down a certain way, could be a potential mini preview of the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, you mentioned the Grizzlies doing a little business. They did a little business this week right at the deadline. Marcus Smart and Jake LaRavia both leaving Memphis, involved in a 3-way deal with the Wizards and the Kings. LaRavia goes to Sacramento, Marcus Smart going to the Wizards, and a 2025 first-round pick from the Grizzlies to the Wizards as well. But Memphis gets Marvin Bagley III and Johnny Davis from Washington, along with a couple of picks, number 2 pick in the upcoming draft and a number 2 pick in the 2028 draft. So again, Memphis making some moves. And, as we talked to Clay Bailey last week, didn't necessarily expect them to do anything earth-shattering, but maybe address some depth and that kind of thing. Wade, from that standpoint, what do you feel like Bagley and Davis bring to the party?
It's jury's going to be out. It'll be interesting to see if both of these guys even stay on the roster. This was a Grizzlies deal that didn't really help you in the super short term, especially obviously if those guys get waived, which at least one, Davis, might for sure get waived. Bagley they might evaluate and keep around. So it's kind of frustrating in a little sense because, man, you feel like you want the team obviously to put all the chips in the pot right now for this season. But looking down the road, it kind of gives them a little more roster flexibility. So they're in that kind of weird navigational piece where you want to maximize your window this season, but considering how young and how nice the contracts are for a lot of your key pieces, you kind of also got to be building toward the future. And that kind of accomplishes it. It's not the sexiest of moves by any means, certainly for this season, but it could give you some flexibility for the next year or two.
Yeah, but again, it wasn't like sexy was the expectation for this team in terms of trade deadline movement, I don't guess.
No, and Kennard was probably the one person that was most likely to be dealt, but man, he was so vocal about wanting to stay this is crazy, but Luke Kennard is the second highest percentage 3-point shooter in the NBA at the moment. So the Grizzlies keep him around. What this does, though, is it does put extra pressure. They're young wings, whether you're talking about Jalen Wells, who's maybe the rookie of the year, whether you're talking about G.G. Jackson or Vince Williams, those guys have been playing great, but they don't have the playoff experience. So you're putting a little extra pressure on your youngsters right now. And that's the only potential icky part about the moves that they did make.
Staying in the NBA for just a second, Brooklyn and Ben Simmons have apparently parted ways or are well on the way to doing so. Apparently the Nets have bought out Ben Simmons' contract. He's expected to speak with Cleveland, the Clippers, and the Rockets as potential landing spot. But man, you talk about a guy who hasn't really had the impact that he was expected to coming out of LSU. It's been crazy.
You name those teams. If I'm a fan of those teams, I don't know if I want any part of that roller coaster right now. I
don't know what he brings.
I see the appeal when he's at his best. We're talking about an all NBA guy in 2020. When he's at his best, he can be a massive difference maker, but we have certainly not seen him at his best for quite a while. And if I'm a franchise that's smack dab in the middle of things like a Cleveland or Houston, perhaps, that is a real dice roll. And if I'm a fan, I'm not sure I'm willing to sign up for that dice roll.
33 games with the Nets this season, 6.2 points, 6.9 assists. Hasn't played in more than 42 games in a season. Rookie of the year in his second year as a professional after missing the entire 16-17 season with a broken foot. But again, has had injuries. Back injury, held out with the Sixers, which got him to Brooklyn eventually, and again just has not been very impactful. He's been more of a tease, I guess, than anything.
Yeah, and it feels like those days, man. It feels like every offseason we get two sets of highlights. One, look how much better Ben Simmons looks, and then on the other set of highlights we get is him bricking free throws and bricking three-pointers left and right. So like I said, if I'm a contender, I see the appeal, but man, I am not necessarily gung-ho about that, especially if the contract ends up being kind of wonky.
Yeah. Former Ensworth standout James Wiseman got moved right before the deadline yesterday as the Indiana Pacers sent him to the Toronto Raptors, sent him and cash in exchange for a second-round pick in the 2026 draft. Has not played this year. Tore his left Achilles in the season opener with the Pacers. just signed with Indiana over the offseason after spending the past year and a half with Detroit. So don't imagine he's going to play. I'm not sure exactly what this means, but I guess the Pacers got him off their roster and were able to get a pick for him. But, it's been a tough go again for the Nashvillian.
Yeah, got him moved, and then the Raptors have already waived him since. So we weren't anticipating seeing him back, but already kind of a free agent here. You hope you haven't seen the last of him because, man, talk about a promising prospect. He certainly has got the goods to kind of make you salivate. But the future will be written for Wiseman going forward, it seems like.
Yeah. We mentioned earlier in the show, Lady Vols coming off that 80-76 win last night at home against UConn. They go to number 6 LSU on Sunday, kind of a precursor to the Super Bowl. That's a 3:00 tip down in Baton Rouge. Nice chance for Kim Caldwell and the Lady Vols to kind of string some things together if they could go down there and get one.
Tall task, but hey, riding high, and you got the 3 at your side. Let them fly, baby.
Wade, winding it down. Big game Sunday, 5:30 kick. Who do you like? I know that we've talked about Chiefs fatigue, and it is real. But that said, what are your thoughts?
My first thought is, ain't no party like a New Orleans party, and they are rolling out the red carpet. Yes, Kendrick Lamar and SZA are going to put on a show for the ages at halftime. But I mean, man, you got John Batiste, who's going to perform the national anthem. Lettucey is going to Lift Every Voice and Sing, which will be fantastic. Trombone Shorty is going to be performing America the Beautiful. I'm excited about that. I'm going to see him at the Ryman next month. And then just for good measure, you get the Human Jukebox Marching Band from Southern as part of the pregame show. So, I mean, they are rolling out the party. It's going to be epic. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, and I think the Chiefs win this game. It's not the sexiest pick, but especially after all we just heard talking a couple of moments ago with Jim, I don't see how you could go against the Chiefs. Give me the Chiefs something like 24-17. I think the game stays under. I do think the Eagles have enough in the trenches to make this a one-score game, and it will come down to who executes in crunch time. And if that is what it's going to come down to, give me Mahomes. I'm not going to be on the other side of Mahomes.
Yeah, right. What is the number?
48.5.
Yeah, I tend to
depending on where you shop.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like the under is the play there as well, but I do like Kansas City as well. I just feel like for everything that you just said, I think I just have a tough time going against Mahomes when he gets to this point. Philadelphia certainly got the goods, as you like to say, to get it done, but in a one possession game late, you just feel like you've seen this movie, you know how it ends, and you just think that Mahomes has done too much to not get it done in a situation on the big stage like this will be on Sunday. So I'm pretty sure that I like Kansas City as well. But as we've said, I think the biggest thing is just hopefully it's a good game. It's a compelling game late. It doesn't get out of hand one way or the other. I really don't think it does between these two teams, but I like Kansas City when it's all said and done. So,
yeah, give me KC. I think it'll be a pretty entertaining game. I'm looking forward to seeing what Mahomes has got. You can bet on whether or not Travis Kelce will propose after the game. So that's a weird. If you want to bet the Chiefs, that's a way to bet the Chiefs in a different market for much better odds. I'm looking forward to it. Ain't nothing like it. Like I said, New Orleans throws a massive party, and hopefully the game lives up to the billing.
Absolutely. That's going to do it here for the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Be sure and join us Monday at 2 o'clock right here. Y'all have a great weekend.